They called him ungrateful. After all he'd done, after all he gave. But that's not how it started. Sami Farid used to think love meant sacrifice. And for a long time, it worked. It bought him smiles, phone calls, group photos where everyone looked like family. What it didn't buy was memory. Because when they forgot everything he had done, they didn't just forget the money. They forgot him. He had just turned 18 when his father packed 2 suitcases and flew back to Lebanon. Sami watched from the front porch as the only man who'd ever made the house feel full disappeared without a single backward glance. No explanations, no apologies, just an airport taxi and a line drawn through everything that came before. Left behind were his mother, his younger sister, and the boy they all still called the baby of the family. Sami didn't cry. He didn't ask why. He just got to work. There were bills on the table and mouths to feed, and someone had to step in. So he did. He took a night shift at the gas station across town. On weekends, he walked dogs in a neighborhood that would never let him live there. During the day, he sat in community college classrooms with his shoulders always tense, always alert like if he stopped paying attention. The roof might finally cave in. Every paycheck went home. Rent, groceries, school supplies, later credit card debt, medical copays, car insurance. His mother always sounded tired on the phone, but she always picked up. And that was enough. There was a time he kept a spreadsheet, color-coded, not to track his money, but to make sense of what his life had become. Blue for bills, green for family, red for when he didn't eat lunch so his sister could buy a prom dress. But over the years, the colors blurred. They all became the same. Just giving. It was easy to lose himself in it. Easier than thinking about the fact that no one ever asked if he was okay, that no one ever said thank you. He told himself it didn't matter. He was the oldest, the one who could handle it, the one who had it together. And if there was ever a part of him that wanted something more, something just for himself, he buried it beneath a growing pile of receipts. By the time Sami reached his late 20s, he had given his family over $100,000. Not from wealth, from obligation, from guilt, from love, if you could call it that. He had never been on a plane, never stayed in a hotel that didn't offer weekly rates, never owned a suit that wasn't borrowed. But when the bills arrived, he always paid them first. Even if it meant eating canned soup for a week, people called him dependable, kind, generous. But those words started to taste bitter, because deep down, Sami wasn't proud of who he was becoming. He was exhausted, and still he gave. Until one night, a silence came over him that felt louder than every cry for help he had never voiced. He sat on the edge of his mattress, hands shaking, and realized he couldn't remember the last time someone had asked him about his dreams, his fears, his life. He had become a background character in his own story. And the scariest part, he wasn't even sure when it happened. If this first chapter of Sami's life speaks to you, subscribe to HeartStories now, because sometimes the most powerful stories come from the ones who've been quiet for far too long. There is a moment in every giver's life when the giving starts to hurt. For Sami Farid, that moment didn't arrive all at once. It seeped in quietly, like water beneath a locked door. You don't see the flood until your feet are already wet. He had always told himself this was temporary, just until his sister got a stable job, just until his mother caught up on the bills, just until his brother was old enough to work. But time has a cruel way of stretching just until into forever. He turned down promotions because they required travel. He stopped dating because every spare moment had to be productive. He skipped his graduation ceremony because his manager at the KF couldn't find a replacement for the shift. And still he gave. But last year, for the first time since he was a teenager, Sami made a different decision. He didn't announce it. He didn't write a speech. He simply stopped sending money home. Not all at once. He still covered dinners when they met up. He still paid for weekend trips, still helped with gifts on birthdays, but he stopped the monthly transfers, stopped watching his balance evaporate like it had somewhere better to be. He expected backlash, But what came instead was silence. No one asked why the money stopped. No one asked if something was wrong. They just adapted. His younger sister took over most of the bills. Their mother leaned more on credit cards. And Sami quietly watched the whole thing from the sidelines, torn between guilt and a strange new taste of freedom. The first time he bought something just for himself, a secondhand leather jacket from a consignment store downtown, he stared at the receipt longer than he should have. The total was small. The impact wasn't. For once, the receipt didn't prove sacrifice. It proved he was still here, still allowed to exist. But even with that shift, the weight didn't leave his chest. It lingered like he had broken a contract no one signed, but everyone expected him to honor. The real rupture came 3 months later. His sister's car broke down on a freezing Tuesday morning. Sami sent money for the repairs without hesitation. No one had to ask. It was instinct, like muscle memory. But weeks passed, no acknowledgement, no message, not even a thank you over lunch. Sami tried to push it aside. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she forgot. Maybe it shouldn't matter. But it did. Because this wasn't about the money anymore. It was about memory, about being seen, about whether any of what he gave had ever really meant anything to them or only to him. He brought it up gently one evening, at the dinner table. His tone wasn't angry. It was cautious, like someone inching toward a doe that had already bitten him once. "I paid for the car repair," he said. Just that, just a statement. His sister looked up from her phone and blinked. "Okay," she said. His mother added, "You always bring up money. It's getting weird." And just like that, Sami felt the room shift. It wasn't the words, it was the look in their eyes. Like he was the problem. Like he was the ungrateful one. He laughed, but it cracked in the middle. "You're welcome," he whispered. No one responded. That night, he opened his laptop and pulled the bank statements from the past 5 years. He added up the totals, every wire transfer, every grocery bill, every car repair, every "I got it, don't worry." The final number made his stomach churn. Over $130,000. Not from wealth, from sacrifice. He printed the documents, highlighted the totals, not to prove them wrong, but to convince himself he hadn't imagined it all, because that's what hurt the most. Not the money, not the exhaustion, but the erasure, the quiet, effortless way they had rewritten history, leaving him out of it. It started with silence, not the kind that calms, but the kind that signals a storm. Sami Farid stood in his mother's kitchen, a stack of papers in his hand and a tremor in his voice that wouldn't go away. The air was thick with things left unsaid for too long, and tonight they would all spill out. The printouts trembled as he laid them on the table. Page after page of proof, bank transfers, grocery store charges, checks for tuition, braces, utilities, car repairs. Years of sacrifice, reduced to ink and numbers. He didn't want to hold it over them. He just wanted them to see, to remember. His mother glanced at the papers and then back at him. Her eyes didn't soften. "What is this?" she asked. Not kindly. "It's everything," Sami said. Every dollar I sent, every bill I paid, I need you to see it." Layla leaned against the counter, arms folded, face unreadable. His mother barely looked down. "I don't remember this. I don't think you sent that much. That can't be right." Sami's heart stopped, then raced, then broke. Not because she doubted the number, but because she doubted him. "I kept every record," but he whispered. "You needed help. I gave it. I didn't ask questions. I didn't take vacations. I didn't buy myself furniture. I just gave joy. You don't have to thank me, but don't pretend I didn't do it." Layla scoffed. "Why are you so obsessed with money? It's family. Why are you acting like we owe you something?" The words cut deeper than she knew. Because he didn't want repayment. He never had. All he wanted was acknowledgement, a moment of truth, a sign that what he'd carried mattered. Sami's voice rose, trembling now. Because every time I gave, I lost a part of myself. And when I finally stopped giving, I realized something. I was never more than a wallet to you. I was never allowed to be tired, or selfish, or gay, or anything that wasn't useful to this house. His mother's eyes narrowed. Don't turn this into something else. But it was something else. It had always been. Sami had lived two lives. One that earned praise for being the dependable son, the other that stayed hidden, afraid of what it meant to be fully seen. His identity was tolerated, never embraced. And even that tolerance had limits. It was silent at holidays, absent in conversations, erased in the same way his efforts were now. I've spent my whole adult life trying to earn love from people who only saw me when I paid, he said, voice hollow. And now you're telling me none of it mattered. His mother walked away without a word. Layla shook her head and went back to scrolling her phone. Something inside Sami cracked, not with rage, but with finality. He didn't scream. He didn't slam a door. He just picked up the papers, folded them slowly, and placed them in his coat pocket. Later that night, he sat in his car, engine off, watching the windows of the house glow warmly with life that no longer included him. He should have cried. He didn't. Instead, he whispered to himself, I'm done. He wasn't just done giving. He was done begging to be seen. Done pretending that blood alone made a family. Done hoping that silence would one day turn into love. There was no big goodbye, no dramatic scene, just a series of small, final acts. Sami Farid packed his bags at dawn. Not much, just a few clothes, a worn laptop, a shoebox of photos that still meant something. He left his house key on the kitchen table, taped to it, a note for his younger brother, Elias. You've always seen me, even when no one else did. I'll still be your brother, just not from this address. He didn't wake anyone. There was nothing left to say. The apartment he found was small and oddly quiet. No slamming doors, no crying through walls, just stillness. He didn't know if it was peace or numbness, but it was his. At first, the silence was unbearable. Years of noise, obligation, guilt, it all echoed louder in absence. He'd grown used to structure, to being needed. Now there were no calls, no texts, no emergencies. He thought he'd feel free, but all he felt was empty. So he filled his time with anything that didn't involve reflection. Extra hours at work, late night walks, reading books he never finished, organizing cabinets that didn't need organizing. He told himself it was productivity. In truth, it was avoidance. But the guilt crept in anyway. Not for leaving, not even for the argument. The guilt came from a deeper place. A place where love and obligation had become inseparable, where he couldn't tell if walking away was healing or betrayal. In therapy, he admitted it out loud for the first time. That he didn't just give money to feel helpful, he gave it because he thought he had to. That if he didn't provide, he would be abandoned again, just like when his father left. That when his mother ignored who he really was, he didn't fight back. He tried harder, worked more, gave more, thinking maybe, this time, it would be enough. He realized something else too. He had a pattern when he fought with them. His words turned sharp, cruel, Soel. Not because he hated them, but because he hated the version of himself that still begged for their approval. That little boy who sat on the floor as his father walked out, promising to be better, stronger, quieter, whatever it took to keep the next person from leaving. Every insult Sami hurled in anger was a flare shot from that child, desperate to be seen. And every time it failed, the guilt doubled back. He wasn't proud of it, but for the first time, he understood it. And understanding gave him space to forgive himself. Slowly, Sami began reclaiming pieces of a life that had always belonged to others. He joined a local LGBTQ+ support group, even though it terrified him. He made friends who didn't need his money, just his presence. He stopped counting favors. He stopped tracking who called first. He let himself sleep in, let himself eat meals without rationing, let himself laugh without permission. It didn't erase the past, but it began to shape a future. One night, months later, Elias called. His voice was low, nervous. He said their sister was drowning in debt. Their mother had started selling old furniture. They were struggling. Then came the question, soft, hesitant. Do you think you'd ever come back? Sami sat with the question, letting it breathe. Then he answered, no, I can't go back to being who I was. But I'll always be here for you. You saw me when no one else did. That matters more than anything. It wasn't rejection. It was clarity. He was done performing love through sacrifice. He was ready to live it, honestly. Even if that meant loving from a distance, Sami Farid didn't wake up one morning feeling healed. It didn't come with a revelation or a dramatic turning point. Healing came in quiet moments. Soft ones. The kind that passed by unnoticed unless you were finally still enough to feel them. It came when he bought himself a secondhand book and read it. Not for research or school or work, but simply because the story made him feel less alone. It came when he sat by the window on rainy afternoons and didn't reach for his phone, didn't check if anyone had called, because for once he didn't need the noise. He began writing again. Not for money, not for praise, just small journal entries on crumpled pages, sometimes with nothing but a single line, I survived this day. He stopped editing himself. In the past, even the way he walked or spoke was filtered. He used to round off the edges of who he was, his softness, his queerness, his fears. Not because he was ashamed, but because he knew that in his family, survival meant being useful first, visible second, and loved. Maybe. But now, Sami gave himself permission to take up space. He laughed too loudly. He wore colors that didn't blend in. He listened to music that reminded him of childhood, even the parts that hurt. He let the wounds breathe, and that, somehow, began to stitch them closed. The guilt never disappeared completely. It still showed up in small waves when he passed the street where his mother used to wait for the bus, when he heard a song that Layla loved, when he saw kids hugging their parents without flinching. But he learned to meet the guilt with grace, to say, you were never meant to carry all of that alone. He built a life that didn't revolve around proving his worth. He found work he was proud of. Quiet work, behind the scenes, helping nonprofits tell their stories better. He got coffee with coworkers without checking his bank account 3 times. He danced at queer events without wondering who might be watching. He even began saving money. It was slow, but it grew, and with every deposit, it felt like he was saving more than dollars. He was saving himself. Then one spring morning, a letter arrived. No return address, but he knew the handwriting. It was from Elias. It didn't beg, it didn't guilt. It simply said, I'm proud of you. I miss you, and I'm trying to be better too. Sami read it twice, then a 3rd time, then folded it and placed it in his journal next to the line, I survived this day. Because he didn't fix everything. He didn't return to the old version of family, but he built something else, something honest. Some days, he still cried, but not from shame, from release. Because the little boy inside him, the one who once sat silently as the world forgot him, was finally being heard. And that voice, though soft, was enough. Have you ever given everything only to realize it was never seen? Have you ever stepped away from the people you love so you could finally love yourself? Tell us in the comments. Your story might be the lifeline someone else needs. And if Sami's journey felt familiar, if it stirred something in you, subscribe to HeartStories, because stories like his deserve to be told and heard.